What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Brass Ring Media Podcast for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. I am your host, Zach Haydorn. That over there, that's Tyler Sage. Tyler, what's going on, dude? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Happy Camo Hoodie Day. Happy Kane T-shirt Day.
Is that a Kane T-shirt? Respect.
Yeah, very fun. I mean, it's like you guys probably have homage now in your neck of the woods. Or have it online. They always do a lot of good WWE stuff, like that vintage look thing.
It's got to be like an old school Kane shirt. I mean,
this is like from 5 or 10 years, but they make all their designs look like vintage.
Yeah,
that's their gimmick. So
I love it. I love it. And hey, we're here today to preview this weekend's AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view on Sunday. It is not an 11-match card as of right now. There's 8 matches right now. So it's crazy. I'll take it. On Tuesday, we did a full preview of Saturday night's main event. So if you want to check that out, we kind of split up our previews over multiple things because it's a busy weekend in wrestling. So we did a Saturday night's main event preview on Tuesday. Here, we're going to do Double or Nothing for our Brass Ring Media members. We'll have something up for NXT Battleground as well. So keep a lookout for that. If you want to try out our membership, it's patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. More on that in a minute. But I want to quickly, before we get into Double or Nothing, pretty big news dropped just a few minutes ago. WrestleNomics, Brandon Thurston, with the report that WWE will no longer be heading to New Orleans next year for WrestleMania 42. It's reportedly they will be getting Money in the Bank next year instead, and then WrestleMania for in a future year that's yet to be determined. So here's the actual statement. And this was provided to Brandon Thurston from the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation. They said that the event is being rescheduled to a later unspecified year, and that they have yet to reveal where WrestleMania in next year will be. The fact that they're getting Money in the Bank next year, and they've also got an event coming up for the UFC in July at the Smoothing King Center. And so all of this is part of a broader, quote, multi-event, multi-year agreement with the city of New Orleans and TKO Group, WWE and UFC. So it doesn't sound like it's anything too wild and crazy, except that you just don't get this a lot from WWE. You know, when WWE announces WrestleMania, like the biggest event of the year, like that's a serious deal. They don't hedge too much, or if ever, on that kind of thing. And they're usually planning, way, way far out on this kind of thing. So to see them move this here, it's interesting if nothing else.
For sure. I'm trying to think, has this ever happened, at least in the modern era, right? So that's like, it is kind of clerical news. It's, not like business. It's business related, not story character related. I do recall like The Rock came out to announce this, but it was like 10% of that promo. It was more the beginning of the Soul thing, right? Isn't that when he announced New Orleans was getting WrestleMania? Yep. So it's like, even that was like a very soft rollout. So I think there was some inkling here that, I don't know what your take is. We talked for a second off air about this, but it seems to me somebody gave them a better deal. Some other city in maybe another country. So, and it's not the one you're thinking, but I do think there is like, because they're already getting the Rumble. I doubt they get Rumble.
That's true. Yeah.
But there's got to be somebody that gave him like a sweetheart deal, or TKO in general, sweetheart deal they couldn't pass up. And it was easy enough to break that agreement with the Superdome.
Yeah. That's my first take too, is that they got some sort of better deal, on and a substantially better deal, because I don't think you blow up a whole thing unless it's substantial unless it's really like a substantial amount different than you're currently getting. I mean, it's just not worth it otherwise. So be real interested to see. And the other thing here too that I think is interesting is that this was not announced by WWE. That they were not ahead of this, of the news getting out there. This wasn't them, spinning this news into something else. It wasn't them, kind of talking up, oh man, New Orleans just expanded their partnership with WWE and they're not going to hold WrestleMania, but they're going to hold this, and this. It was the city of New Orleans, like essentially or the New Orleans Sport Foundation that dropped this. So I think that is interesting because, TKO Group, WWE, Nick Khan, that in an ideal world, they'd want to be in control of the rhetoric around this, and they're not. And I think that's a really interesting part of this whole thing as well.
Yeah. Do you know the exact, is it this commission or Brandon dropped it first?
Brandon dropped it first.
Okay. So yeah, that's obviously the journalist in me tells me that somebody at the sports commission knows who Brandon is and was pissed about this. And yeah, got ahead of WWE announcing it before they could reveal, hey, here's the big plans, etc. So
yeah,
that tells you kind of how that, again, more strikes of hey, we got outbid or bigfooted by some other entity and we're pissed about it because we had an agreement in place.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. It sounds like that. I mean, just from a journalist perspective, it's you'd have to get a tip on something like that. I don't think Brandon, maybe he is, but I don't think he's calling up Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation every day going, WrestleMania is still on?
Yeah.
WrestleMania is still on? WrestleMania?
Hey, he's a good journalist. He might. I don't know.
He is. He's a great journalist, but even that, I would advise is probably a waste of time. But now when you land a story like this one, so, good for him. You guys can head over to Brandon Thurston on Twitter and check out his written report in full. He also has a WrestleNomics Substack that has the whole full-on report there. Head there for that, but also head there for all the other work that he does. He's really good at what he does, and friend of the show, friend of Brass Ring Media. So check that out. It's really good stuff. More to come, I'm sure. This is just, I'm sure, the tip of the iceberg on this story. So more to come on that. All right, let's preview AEW Double or Nothing. Before we do, let's set the table here for the show. This is the Brass Ring Media Podcast. We're live with the show right here on our YouTube channel twice a week, once on Tuesdays and once on Thursdays. And we also have a bunch of other Brass Ring Media shows all throughout the week. Dominic D'Angelo premiered the Daily Wrestling Hotline this week. That's up. You can get that right here on YouTube, also wherever you get your podcasts. The Kick-Ash podcast will be live on Saturday morning. You don't want to miss that with Ashley. Robert will be on with Nocturnal Knockout after Double or Nothing for a post show. So lots and lots and lots of great stuff hitting the YouTube channel and hitting the podcast feed this week and throughout the weekend. So if you're not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe. Hit subscribe, turn on your notifications. And if you can, like the videos, it helps us out in the YouTube algorithm and gets our stuff in front of more eyes. So appreciate you in advance for that. We also offer Brass Ring Media membership over on Patreon. Patreon.com/Brass Ring Media is where you can find that. We got 2 different tiers. The first tier is only $4 a month, $4 a month, and it gets you a member-only podcast once a week at least. All of our pay-per-view and PLE review shows, a Discord community where all of our members hang out and interact and watch wrestling, but also, talk other stuff as well, and so much more. So it's only $4 and it's up on Patreon right now, patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. I have the live chat open. We're still navigating issues with the paid side of this. So no super chats today. You guys can just save them all up for when we come back. But E is in the chat and the boss is in the chat. Really great to see you guys and so much more. E asks here, how is Robert, since there was no Nocturnal Knockout yesterday? So yeah, no Nocturnal Knockout yesterday because Robert was at AEW Dynamite. He was at the show in Albuquerque. So that is why. But he will be doing a post show this weekend, and he'll be back with the show Wednesday.
Hopefully, he's not behind that woman in the second row with the stupid big hat.
Yes. Oh man, I meant to text him about that, and just to give him a hard time. But yeah, that hat was annoyingly big.
Yeah, I was like, well, now that's all I can see. It's like when I see, the regulars in the front rows of WWE shows.
I know. Yeah. Oh gosh. So he was there. I think he's going to be writing up something for the newsletter on that. So definitely check that out when it comes out. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, it's on Substack every day. We usually post something there. Just search Brashing Media Substack. It's free. And you can check out our written work. But thanks for asking, E. Hopefully you can join the post show on Sunday. All right, Tyler, with that said, let's jump in and let's preview AEW Double or Nothing. So it's an 8-match card as of right now. We still have Collision. So my guess is you're going to get a match added at some point, but just because it's 9 is usually the sweet spot, and then we'll get a bunch of 0-hour matches before, like after that. So I don't think this is a change in direction, but as of right now, there's only 8 matches.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like anybody needs to be in a match, though.
No, definitely there doesn't seem like there needs to be any matches. That's 100% sure. But when you look at the show, there's one championship match, or no, 2 singles championship matches. That's it. That's someone like Tony Khan. It's someone like AEW. There's a tag team title match, and then it heavily leans on the Owen Hart Foundation tournament and an Anarchy in the Arena. I really like what they've done for this show. I think this is one of the best collective shows that they've built in a while. Just when you think about how much matters at the top of the card, and it starts with those first Owen Hart matches for me. I think that sets the tone for the rest of the card. And so when I look at this, it feels like, and last night, and we'll talk about it specifically here in a minute, but last night they really put a large emphasis on really putting a lot of meaning, a lot of stakes, a lot of storyline, a lot of narrative, a lot of character development behind those finals matches. It feels like, we compare AEW tournaments to New Japan tournaments all the time. And this feels like, a G1 final or a Best of the Super Juniors final or a New Japan Cup final, where it's like the final is the biggest thing that's going on in your company. And this feels like that to me. And so, yeah, you're not getting an AEW world title match, but when I look back at previous world title matches, the last 3, 4, 5 pay-per-views, both of these finals matches feel like they're bigger than those were based on, the booking going into this show. So I'm pretty impressed with how they put this together without just leaning on just singles title after singles title after singles title being defended on the card.
Yeah, it's crazy how if you have a tournament that the winner gets something besides a trophy, in pro wrestling, how much that works.
Crazy.
So, definitely positive there. I couldn't agree with you more. Stole my point, but I'm happy for it because I'm more the AEW defender than you are. And you're fair. We're both fair. But if this had 7 matches even or 6, with how it's been built and what it's built around people winning matches to be in the biggest show of the year, right? It's like how WWE, in all their pros and cons, right? The structure is impeccable. Of basically a whole quarter of the year is basically self-booked. Not like you have to tell the stories, but the framework is there. Rumble, Chamber, WrestleMania, right? Every year in and year out. In 50 years, I think that recipe will be the same or pretty close to it.
Yeah.
So that works. And this year is that and feuds that people care about more so than belts that you don't see or too many belts. Even the only match that feels very AEW classic pay-per-view to me is the Okada Mike Bailey.
Yes.
That is built on, hey, this is for a belt. This is to see a new star and a legend go at it and have it's gonna be a good match. Even the tag match is more built on the intrigue of MJF with the Hurt Syndicate, and even I don't know. We'll talk like Dynamite last night as we talk about these matches, but even like Dustin's promo, whether you like, I think there's pros and cons to that sort of promo. That was like more about the emotion of like what that means for him as a performer, hearkening back to still probably the best match in AEW history with him and Cody at the first show ever, referencing that like 6 years to the day of when that happened. So all that was good storytelling, emotion. Obviously, Anarchy in the Arena is not for a title. And has that been fully successful? Yes or no? We'll talk about that. But all of that is like classic wrestling emotion. I care about the characters. I want the good guys to win. All of that. And that is just feels so opposite of an AEW show. And it's been very sneaky. And I think AEW recently has been very sneaky in a good way about putting its head down, booking good stories, getting people over, making you care about the company. On a good trajectory for sure. It has been for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, that's well said. It's well said. Yeah, and I just think, it's they as early as last year's Double or Nothing, or I don't even know if it was on the pay-per-view, but the Owen Hart finals last year. When you look back at that, it was just, all right, these guys are in a final, and that's it, and that's all they did was that tournament final. That's it. Here, I mean, they've taken time to really like wade through the Will Ospreay story, wade through Adam Page, even Mercedes Mone and Jaime Hayter, like get through all of that from a character perspective. And I think that's helped greatly, like enhance like what those matches mean. And, when you look at a match like Will Ospreay versus Adam Page, I think people are excited for that match. I think they would be if nobody said anything and they just were out there wrestling a match and that's it. People would be excited for it. But now, man, there's emotion in that. There's emotion in that. There is feeling in that. There's authenticity. There's real life, stakes that they've tried to articulate. And I think that's the sweet spot. And that's what we always say. And that's what we've always said about AEW is like you can have these great matches, but add that special sauce to it and you get something even better. And I think that for the first time in a long time, I feel that with this Will Ospreay Adam Page match in particular.
Yeah, and like on that too is one thing I was gonna say of like there'd be so many AEW pay-per-views where I know Mox is not defending the title. I think even if he was, this would still be the main event of Ospreay and Adam Page. So like that is in itself is like shows you where Tony Khan's head is as a booker, as a promoter. He knows this is the biggest match by a mile and set up the world champion in the Anarchy in the Arena to probably fit in his mind that the main event does not have to be the world title being defended. Whatever it takes for him to get there, totally fine with me. And the next time we see a pay-per-view main eventing with John Moxley, it's when he's going to lose it. So perfect. Love it. Better than him and Swerve again, better than him and Joe, better than him and Kenny for some reason, all that stuff, right? So very, seems it's like all the low-hanging fruit, but that's like the thing with AEW. It's like it's done like a lot of the hard stuff and like had the good talent and the stuff that is like makes it special, and it's not done well with the low-hanging fruit. And this is like just low-hanging fruit being plucked and enhancing the company.
Yeah. Well, let's just start with that one. Let's just start with that. It's the main event. Adam Page versus Will Ospreay, the finals of the men's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And the winner of this match not only wins the tournament, but also earns a shot at the AEW World Championship at All in Texas in July. Last night on Dynamite, I think, as I sit here and kind of mull over all the different promos, I mean, you can look at some of the stuff that Punk and MJF did as some of the best promo work. I think you can look at some of the stuff that early on that Cody did maybe as some of the best promo work. But I think that there's an argument to make, and a pretty easy one, that promo segment with Will Ospreay and Page last night was the best promo segment in company history. I mean, I loved Will Ospreay just taking a step back and going, I want to win this. I want to win it for my kid, and I want to win it for my journey that I took, and I want to win it because of the sacrifices that I've made and for the people that have helped me. And like, it's such a babyface promo in that regard, and a babyface promo that fits Will Ospreay right now. And then on the other side of it, it's like an equally babyface promo, but with a totally different scope, totally different perspective of, I need to win this because of what has happened to me already, because I've been in this fog and this haze and just obsessed with retribution for so long, and I need this to get fully out of that. And that's a different type of sympathy that Paige is drumming up from what Will Ospreay is drumming up, equally as significant, equally as important, equally as relatable. And then they shared a beer afterwards. Like that I thought that was just so badass. Like, I thought that was just a badass way to put a bow on this. And they didn't have to fight each other. They didn't have to go down the road of like, oh, well, let's do this tag match and can we coexist? And like, none of that. It was just like one guy with a microphone, another guy with a microphone, sell the damn match. And they did. And I really, really like that promo, especially from Ospreay, because Pat Adam Page has that in him, but Ospreay can go off the rails slightly at times, and he just never did on this one. This was just straightforward, punch you in the mouth. It reminded me of the promo that he cut on Kenny Omega, like ahead of their Wrestle Kingdom match. Like, this was like that. I loved it, and I thought if you did nothing else for this whole program, you needed that, and I thought that was a home run.
It also reminded me, there was a Dynamite in Columbus when Ospreay was like pre-Forbidden Door, when him and Kenny, they wrestled at Forbidden Door, right? Or a tag match.
Yeah, and at the Dome, but yeah.
Yeah, because there was like an off after the show ended. They had a promo off, which was insane. That it was not on television. It reminded me of that. He was a heel then. I think they released it later online, but it was really good for both of them. It reminded me of that intensity. So first things first on this, the beer. Did anyone ID what that beer was? Because that was some low quality beer. How much it was foaming instantly. They ended because they were talking for like 15 minutes and it still foamed when they both drank it. I was like, wow, that's some low quality beer. So shout out to that beer. Hopefully it's not a local Albuquerque company.
It's also like, come on, AEW sales team, get that thing sponsored by somebody, get it sponsored by somebody and slap Budweiser on.
Yeah. So, and it's funny too, like on that, and then I'll get to the real meat of this, like you did. I think Jaime Hayter probably drank 10 times more beers than Will Ospreay. The way he handled that thing, and Ospreay was like, did the Stone Cold after like the 13th Broken Skull IPA. It gets thrown his way. He just poured it on his chest. But because those are hefty. Those are like 7%, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're delicious, but yeah,
they're good. Yeah. So that was fine and dandy. But yeah, I mean, this promo is great, and this is like the best version of like a meta promo that you can do as a babyface. Like the whole thing of like talking about the flight, because that's like real, right? Like, it is crazy that he does that and he doesn't want to move his family, but yeah, he'll fly from Heathrow, presumably. I don't know where he lives exactly, or from Newcastle or from Liverpool, whatever the closest one is. But to Albuquerque, and that's a long flight, and that's lots of transfers, lots of layovers, all that stuff, and he does that every week, and that helps him as a babyface to like just know that, because most people don't know that. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks people, even back in the day, like I think WWE performers would have benefited more conveying like, hey, like I know you see me for 15 minutes a week, and that's what you think my job is, but I am away from home. I'm at home a day a week, and like I'm doing this. Like, that is a babyface move, and that was interesting to call out and talk about. But yeah, I mean, him saying he wants to win, very classic babyface stuff, and it worked. And Paige, this to me was like, you've seen all the Marvel movies, I presume, or the big ones.
Yeah,
very much like Iron Man and Captain America in Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Like before they fight, but they're going to get back together and defeat the evil of the universe together. So this like laid out him being like, hey, like no matter who wins, like whoever wins has to defeat Jon Moxley. And I do, this proves your point of like keeping Moxley in this spot for this long. I do like the only negative of this whole story is like I wish Jon Moxley was more of a menacing figure that people disliked as a character as opposed to go away heat. Because that would make this so much better if it was really like he's unstoppable as opposed to like we're annoyed by him as like a force. But it's going to be Ospreay, Hangman, Swerve, and then probably Kenny. And who else? Who else is who's your fifth Avenger, basically, of AEW?
Ospreay, yeah,
if you want in that spot, I don't know. That's a spot for someone to grab if it's not coming to my mind immediately.
Joe, maybe?
Samoa Joe?
Yeah, like not great, but
yeah. There's somebody there. I think that's really good too. To like someone to get in that spot. But yeah, that's there and that's being set up, and I like that a lot as like a story of like these are your baby faces for the next year that are like moving the company forward, getting it back to selling out 9,000 seat arenas consistently across the country. And I do think like they're on that trajectory to do that. So yeah, all this is good. Hangman stuff. This is some of the best Hangman stuff ever. This is like what I wanted from him.
Yeah.
When he's doing that story with Kenny, like he's being explicit. Like it's been a year, and this is what it did to me. Like all this stuff with Kenny was so read between the lines, and you need other people to decipher it for you.
Yeah.
He's learned from that as a talent, and he didn't undercut Ospreay either. Whether I thought he was right or wrong with the CM Punk stuff, he didn't do that here to Ospreay if he wanted to, right? He didn't. I don't think he did, but yeah, just great for both guys. How long was it? It was like 25 minutes, right?
Yeah, it was long. It was like at least 20 minutes. It was really long, and I don't think it. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome either. Like I thought it needed to be what it was. And they accomplished a lot with it. Talking about not just this match, but what happens after. If I lose, you're gonna help me. If you win, I'm gonna help you. Like it's that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they took time to like spell all that out. I think that was well done. And again, there was emotion behind it, and you felt for both guys. And so that's the only negative of this is that the audience really has to choose now of like who they're going to support. So you don't have that investment one way or the other. So, which I still think is important, but in this case, it's different because it is a tournament final. It's not just a random kind of match thrown together. So I think you can get away with it more in that regard, and that's good. I'm taking Will Ospreay to win this, and I don't know. I think they did enough yesterday and throughout this build to kind of make you think that it could be either Adam Page or Will Ospreay. Like I think they really have hidden the finish well on this, but I still think Will Ospreay is the way to go. And it's not so much because Page is not a good enough talent or not, ready for the spot or anything like that. But it's more so, I just think if you have Will Ospreay on your roster, he's getting the reactions that he is. He has the type of matches that he has. Like he's your number one draw. He's the drawing card. He's the reason why, like you should, like if you're explaining AEW to somebody, like Will Ospreay to me is the reason why, you tell somebody to watch this show. Number one, like there's a lot of reasons, but he's number one. And so I think it's time for him to actually be in that spot with the world championship. So for that to happen, he's got to win here. And I think he will.
Yeah. At 7:59 Eastern time yesterday, I was like, I'm going to pick Adam Page to win this match. But this promo from like all the pro wrestling I've ever watched, this is good too, right? Like usually we can like get every match correct without breaking a sweat with AEW shows. It's just because they're good matches. They're still compelling to watch.
Yeah.
Here they've done a really good job, like you said. But the line of like, hey, I want to carry that title into the O2 arena.
Yeah.
That's like a real thing too, to sell tickets and make sure that thing sells out because New Japan / CMLL are not going to bring much to that at this point. So I think Ospreay is like saying that line is the babyface in WWE saying I'm going to get the win before a big show. It usually works out that way. Now, if Jon Moxley, like I said, was a more convincing Roman Reigns type heel that seemed inevitable and unbeatable. And that's more telling the story in the match better with Moxley as well. But I think Heyman Page is more the soul of AEW than Will Ospreay. But Will Ospreay, it's like, if not now, then when, is how I feel.
Right.
And there's a little bit of that with Hangman, but, if him and Swerve go on a super tag team run here, or like as just a team that work together, not a stable, but just like, two outlaws that people love going through and running roughshod on people occasionally. I want to see them take out FTR. I want to see them take out the Hurt Syndicate. I want to see them take out Moxley and Claudio, right? There's lots there for them when Edge and Christian are heels. I want to see them take them out too. I want to see them take out the Young Bucks. So that's like a lot for them to do as a unit. And maybe not even like, I don't really want them to have the tag titles. I just want them to like bring justice to AEW basically, while Will Ospreay's on his like Cody stuff. So for all those reasons, I'm going to pick Will Ospreay as well. But it was that promo segment, like the meta and I think like Ospreay can do this. And it's like, this is the time to do it for sure. As opposed to like, when it's him and Swerve last year, it felt like, oh, they might actually do it. But it feels like this is like the exact right amount of time to be in the company and to pull the trigger. And that he is the biggest star in the company. And that'll be solidified there and be good for the company.
Let's go to our chat here, because we got a lot of thoughts on this. We have a real quick shout out again to our gold members, Sean Palikta, who's in our live chat right now, Adam Kidd, and Andrew H. Thank you guys so much for your support and your gold membership. We appreciate it. Sean says here, what's up, guys? Ospreay's promo especially was awesome last night. He was better than Hangman, even though Hangman was really good too. They made the title feel very, very important, and that is huge. Yeah, I do think that that's a great kind of side thing that happened in this promo, is that you really just put over the significance of that world championship, and that it is in the wrong hands in terms of, and they didn't say this outright, but that's the background noise is needs to be around one of our waists. One of us has to win this because of this, and this. So I definitely agree with you in that regard. Sean also says here, or Zach says Hangman Page for the win, and Sean says that's not a good reason, Zach. LOL. Will Ospreay to win. So some split opinions. We also have a pretty interesting note here from Derek, who's in our chat, and this is more of a thought overall. The two Owen tourney final matches are compelling. The rest of the card does little for me. Honestly, if the show is only 3 hours, I'd probably order it. 5 hours is a chore. Respect to that, Derek. Goodness, yes, it is. And I don't know. There's only 8 matches on this show, but I think that's more so because some of this stuff's going to go really long, and less so because it's going to be shorter than 5 hours. So
yeah, I mean, Mercedes match, the match we're talking about now, Anarchy in the Arena, that's probably 2 hours.
Yeah,
between those 3 matches with packages, entrances, shenanigans, all that sort of stuff.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, in this one, is going to get is going to get time. Zach says here, Hangman wins and goes on to dethrone Mox would be more emotionally compelling than Ospreay, who did a good job attaching emotion to his potential victory. Yeah, I mean, Hangman winning this match, I don't think would cause any issues. I think you can tell a really great story with him and Mox. You can tell a really great story with Ospreay and Mox. So they've got, and that's what makes this match so compelling, is like they haven't given it away. Like this isn't this isn't Will Ospreay against Orange Cassidy or somebody like that. Like these are 2 top guys who are top guys right now, and one of them's going to lose. And, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing overall.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's move on. We'll start like at the bottom of the card here. We've got Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness returning to the ring to take on FTR. This has been kind of like the main event feud on AEW Collision the last couple weeks. you know, I don't have a problem with this match, but this is one, if you're going to make this show 3.5 hours, this is definitely one that you don't need to have on this show. I suspect, and my prediction here is that FTR wins, and then we do get a Cope return. I don't think Cope is missing the All-In event, and so my guess is with FTR having taken out Cope, that this is on pay-per-view more so because that return is going to happen, and because this in and of itself just doesn't scream pay-per-view to me. But if you're Tony Khan and you're thinking of bringing Cope back, then maybe you do want it on here. So I think FTR wins this, of course, but I think you see the return of Cope here.
We're different on this, which is I like. I mean, I think we have the same result. I have FTR winning as well, but I liked everything FTR has been doing ever since they beat up Cope. And I mean, I really like that. I think more than you did.
That's because you hate Cope so much.
Well, yeah, but like I like this version of FTR of being like a slight reason to check in on Collision. I mean, I do like that they've updated people on Dynamite on what's happening. Obviously, David Garcia is, creator wrestler number 7 is his like whole thing. Like Sammy Guevara, we'll talk about that, but him just standing there, I was like, oh man, it was crazy to think like, the pillar thing, right? Like Sammy and then Danny later, like those guys just are not guys to have a real company around. They're like, they're like X Division champions in TNA level.
They're just not the pillars anymore.
Yeah.
What's Sammy doing in a 3-piece suit also?
I don't know.
Since when did that happen?
Such a scumbag.
Like, dude,
so weird for him to be like, I'm a babyface, I'm in this thing. So, yeah, and this is a vessel for Cope to come back. I do, and I'm a huge Nigel fan too. So this is like, I think that's why it's on the pay-per-view more than anything. Just to get
that too. Good point.
They are like, you just like never thought you're gonna see Nigel wrestle ever again. So every time it's a treat for me, at least. So he's in that Pat McAfee role, but he's a real wrestler. So, but this is like the place to do someone that commentates mostly. So I do like that too, as like a promotional decision to put him in a match like this as opposed to one of your main things on a pay-per-view. So that's there. But yeah, Cope comes back, and like, how do you then get, is he rolling around with Nigel and Danny, or do you somehow find a way in the next 2 months or 6 weeks to get Christian on his side, which is what you want to do here. So that'll be the hard part to get to work. Because to do that, they're going to be heels. And it's like Cope should just be a heel with Christian, who's such a good heel. Like, to do the opposite is such a mistake to me.
Yeah, well, I agree, like, fundamentally. But I mean, then are you suggesting heel Edge and Christian against heel FTR?
No. I don't care if that match happens at all.
Okay. I think it seems like that's where they would go, but
yeah.
I just can't see them turning Christian that quick.
Yeah, I'm more babyface Hurt Syndicate taking on FTR and or Edge and Christian as heels, and then you have Young Bucks taking on Page and Swerve, and that's those two. Whatever combination you want of the first one to take on the Hurt Syndicate, and then obviously the latter. Those are the only 2 tag team matches I need on the All-In card. I don't need a third one where you have Hurt Syndicate versus somebody, then you have FTR versus Edge and Christian, and then you have Page and Swerve versus the Young Bucks. That's too many. Yeah. So that is a nice way to get to that 2 only, and I don't care who gets left out there. You just didn't make it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, it'll be real interesting to see how they do this, and because I mean, look, if it's Edge and if it's Cope and Danny Garcia against FTR, like, nobody has any interest in that. Cope and Nigel is a little better, but you're pretty much doing that here, and so I don't think adding Cope to Nigel as a tag team is all that more intriguing. So yeah, I'll be interested to see who Cope gets as a tag team partner. But we will we'll see. Sean says here in the chat, Garcia just does not do it for me. Yeah, me me either. And Derek says, like you, Tyler. I have a soft spot for Nigel. I was an early ROH fan. The fact that I don't watch Collision leads me not to be drawn into the match. I mean, they've done the work to like make this into something, you know? I mean, FTR finally seems like it has a play. They have a place. They've got a role. All that, you know, is important and is good. It's just I think this match exists for whatever happens after it, and not so much, you know, and not so much because we have to have the match itself. All right. Speaking of the Hurt Syndicate, Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin will be taking on Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. AEW Tag Team Championships on the line. Lashley and Benjamin putting those up against Rhodes and Sammy, who are the ROH World Tag Team Champions. This, like that other match that we just talked about, I think this is very much, you know, a match that exists for so that something can happen in it, like, and not so much because, oh man, we got to see, you know, Guevara and Dustin take on Hurt Syndicate. Like, this is all about why and how MJF, you know, integrates into the Hurt Syndicate. Like, I mean, I think that this match exists so that storyline can have something to play off of, you know, on pay-per-view. And I'm not really convinced at this point that I know what's going to happen with this whole storyline. I mean, it seemed yesterday that, well, let me just ask you straight up. Did you like the tone that Hurt Syndicate took, you know, with the crowd and stuff as they were aligning with MJF? Because they were like mouthing off to the crowd, ripping on the crowd, like acting more outwardly heelish than they have had in weeks, as MJF is joining them. But I don't think it got him any actual heat. Like, nobody really booed them. I think they were more laughing at the quips more so than anything else. So did you like that or no?
Yeah. Do you think what percentage of the original Hurt Syndicate was involved in that in your mind? Because to me, it was like MVP was like 95% of that energy.
Yes.
Of like, and then, you know, the other two, Benjamin and Bobby, were there. To me, it was just like signaling like MVP and MJF are going to be a unit, and they're going to abandon the Hurt Syndicate.
Okay, interesting. That's how
I read it, because MVP like changed his tune way more than he ever has. He was doing MVP shtick, or he was doing MJF stick. We're like to a point where it's like it was jarring to be like, why are you being so hacky right now as a performer? Because it was like very hacky, and it was like almost on purpose of like, hey, this is like we're doing the cheap heat segment, and to like tell a story and lay a foundation. But yeah, I didn't like it. If there was no intention behind it, then yeah, it was a bad segment. It was a bad choice, and it makes the MJF not going for the world title, not caring about it as much. That team of argument confirmed. And if that's the case, then MJF would be bringing down the Hurt Syndicate, which is not a good thing for your star power.
Right.
So I do think there's more to it going on, and we'll see in this match. I don't know if it happens right away, but, you know, besides what I just said, if it's MVP and MJF versus the Hurt Syndicate at All In, that also works for me, because MVP wrestling is still, you know, a reason to check in if you haven't seen him wrestle for a long time. So that's what I think is going on here. Maybe we'll see the seeds of that happening here, where MJF uses the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Maybe they get DQ'd, or maybe it almost cost them the match and the Hurt Syndicate still wins. Something like that. So.
Sean says here, the segment last night was awful. The story is getting worse and worse. Here's the thing. Sean, I don't, for some reason, I don't classify it as a bad story or it getting worse and worse, because I'm interested. I just think so far, or like as it goes on, it gets just more and more confusing and less defined as far as like, what are we supposed to think is happening here? How does Tony Khan want us to react? How do the stars want us to react? And as far as I'm concerned, Hurt Syndicate are babyfaces. When they start whomping on Sammy Guevara, that's like the ultimate babyface move in my eyes. So like swimming upstream against that reaction, I think is a fool's errand. Like, it seems like the audience wants to cheer Hurt Syndicate. The question is, what do you do with MJF? And that remains to be seen. And so I'm with you. I think that somehow MJF gets involved and either helps them win when they don't need the help or helps them win when they do need the help to kind of like solidify his role on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Based on last night, it seems like we're going to get, a longer run of MJF in the Hurt Syndicate than I probably would like. And what I'm looking for is to see, do they lean into the cheers? Do they lean in and really try to get heat? Because last night, they kind of said the right stuff, but man, their demeanor and body language and overall attitude was, not heelish in my, even MVP, as he kind of ragged on the crowd, it was just, I don't know, just kind of was like ha 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 type ragging. And I think that has diminishing returns if you're not getting booed.
Correct. And also, like, it's human nature when you're a performer in anything, not just wrestling. Let's say you're doing some sort of live performance and you're paired with somebody. It's a group effort, right? I can be as vague as possible here.
Mm-hmm.
I do improv. So that's what I'm really thinking.
So you're hitting that.
The insight. But like, you go out there with somebody, they suck at improv, and you're out there with them and you have to like make the scene good. Like, there is a mental barrier to be like, okay, I'm really good at this. I'm going to make this work, or I'm going to get through this and hopefully someone saves me, or there's some interaction that like is more memorable and gets like not a negative viewpoint. And I do think like who they're paired with. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I did like the promo from Dustin referencing history, but who cares?
Yeah. Like
MJF's interference. Like, I thought this would be a segment. Like, I thought what they did last night would have been like the segment on the show, on the pay-per-view, of like him signing officially. And if they had like one less week, I think that's probably what they would have done and got to the point that they're trying to get to here. So this match is totally 100% a vessel for MJF interaction with them, and that hurts. Like, it's like a WWE match where like I don't care until the finish happens.
Until the finish,
that's all the story is.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Well said. So you're taking Hurt Syndicate also, though.
I am, and I'm taking FTR on the last. I don't know if I made an official prediction for that previous match as well.
No, you did. Oh, I just assumed.
Yeah, you assumed correctly.
Yeah. Zach suggests perhaps MJF rigged the contract to remove MVP from the group and put himself in charge. Perhaps.
Yeah, he did seem very happy with his second lawyer, especially.
Yes.
So that he like, oh, you did it, or maybe he's stealing all their merch money and all that stuff. There's definitely a shoe to drop there for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. Sean says we definitely don't need to see MVP at a match. Dustin, we've spent way too much time and too long in ROH means nothing. The ROH stuff, I'll tell you, like, they got to stop. I mean, they just got to stop. They just have to stop. Like, it's so depressing and so sad. It's like, okay, great, you're the ROH tag team champions and you're also the trios champions. And it's just like, nobody cares. Like, it's time. It's like, it's almost like the ROH is a negative, for anybody now.
Like, what Tony should do, he already has the rights to get the tape library. It's going to be valuable when they are fully available somewhere at some point, right? It's just hours of content that somebody doesn't understand. You go, WWE's got X number of hours of content. We have Y number of content. So that's why we're a good partner, XYZ, right? So, but like, besides that, I think ROH should be a show that pops up that he owns, but it feels like a little guerrilla promotion that has 3 or 4 shows a year. It's basically just indie stars, and it's a way to get like, oh, cool, this is like whoever the hot indie talents are, they're on the show and they're going to wrestle a handful of AEW people, but not even that. Yeah. It's just like do your own, like, hey, support like, you're not making money on it, but like keep the brand alive. And I would try to make it as much of what ROH was in probably 2010, 2011 when it got purchased by Sinclair. He's never going to get back to the, truly indie days. But, if you can do that 2011, 2012 vibe, have a couple shows a year, just do that as opposed to trying to make it what it is. It's just not fit. It's not working. And it's just like a creative suck. And obviously Tony was way more focused on that when the company was creatively in a bad spot. And obviously, what did they even film? Is that like before Collision? They film Ring of Honor content?
I don't know. Like, so last week I was at Dynamite and they did not tape ROH. So I have no idea when they must just have a whole bunch of matches in the can, and then they'll just tape them. But that just shows how irrelevant it is. I mean, I honestly like the best thing if you want to keep the ROH brand alive is to end weekly ROH television. Like, you're hurting the brand at this point to me. So. Cut it out, Tony Khan. All right, let's keep going. We've got Kazuchika Okada against Speedball Mike Bailey, the AEW Continental Championship on the line. This is one of two singles titles that are going to be on the line on this show. This, as you mentioned, Tyler, is your classic AEW title match. Not a ton of hype, not a ton of build. A champion in Okada that I think is lukewarm at best, and a title that is ice cold. But when it gets in the ring on Sunday, I mean, certainly you have to expect these guys to have a really, really good match together because it's Speedball and it's Okada. So I'm expecting a lot out of this match, but there's just nothing to this other than it being a good match on pay-per-view.
Correct. Not much else to add there. Should be fun, but yeah, it's a way to get Okada in a match on a pay-per-view and showcase Speedball, which is good. So yeah, this is one that should be something that should be like the main event of Dynamite. Yeah, but Okada, when whoever, I guess whoever wins that you probably can. Hopefully they combine those two belts. And that whoever wins the Continental Classic gets a chance to compete for that title at the next pay-per-view, and that makes it feel very special. And who's the TNT champion right now?
Cole? Adam Cole, baby.
Adam Cole, okay. Because I was like, who's? I was running through my head like, who's the other champion of that ilk? So yeah, I mean, if you especially combine that belt with that, you can have one mid-card title. I think it can actually be a prestigious event where you can kind of merge that into your Super Juniors or your up and coming. Yeah. The Continental Tournament can be like, hey, Kevin Knight versus Speedball Mike Bailey would be the final if it was happening right now. And one of those guys wins and goes on to, get their first singles title. That's what that all should be in the end. And that tournament should be at that time of the year too. So I think we get into that zone eventually. But yeah, this is, and then when it's that, the whole reason I bring that up is like, that's when you can then, before a pay-per-view, have that champion defend as the main event before your pay-per-view.
Right.
So
right.
Just because Okada's holding it, then you force it in here.
Well said. And I don't think that this is a bad, necessarily a terrible match to put on. It doesn't mean much in a vacuum, this specific match. But if you're going to make Okada and Kenny into something big for All In, which all roads seem to be heading that direction, then I think you do want Okada to have some title defenses under his belt, to be on TV, to be prevalent. And so if this is that, like, okay, I'm good. I'm good with this. But, in the end, Sean's right here. The match means nothing. Okada wins. Are you taking Okada as well, I'm assuming?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Also, can we talk? Do you see, you can't buy this on Triller in North America?
That's right. Yes, you cannot buy this on Triller.
They're about to go under. It's the reporting on that.
Yes.
So shout out to all the UK fans on Triller Plus that watch all the AEW stuff that way. Good luck.
Yeah, hopefully they don't go out of business before the weekend.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look good. In fact, if you listen to, or if you trust Dave's reporting on this, the end of their business could presumably come at any.
Yeah. So now, so North America, you have to watch it on Amazon now. Then
Amazon Prime, yeah, or YouTube. I think you can buy it on YouTube as well. So,
and Ruth Surf. I mean, that's probably right. I just think that's the company a year and a half ago. I think there's a better option there.
Yeah. No, I think that, if
we'll see the pop. He'll get a big pop when he comes.
Yeah, huge pop.
He'll probably be, well, yes, no spoiler.
Well, here's the thing. It's with Darby, it's if that was the plan, right, at some point, and it clearly was at some point, because Darby was the main foil to these Death Riders, right, before he left, on the every time. If Tony Khan pivoted from that, which it looks like he has, but we don't know. We won't know until July 12th. That's good to see out of Tony Khan as a booker, because things are way different today than they were in January when Darby left, or February, whatever the hell it was. It's a big difference. I mean, the company went through some rocky creative times at the start of the year, at the end of last year. Numbers went down, and I think just different talent got over more. And I think it's a positive recognition that if Darby ends up as the fifth Avenger and not the one Avenger, like, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for Tony Khan to have seen and reacted to and pivoted on. So thumbs up on that if it shakes out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, we'll get more into that later, or now. What are we talking about now?
Yeah, we'll talk about it now. Anarchy in the Arena. That's the big multi-person match, a Double or Nothing staple at this point. And here are the teams. It's Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, which is Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Shibata, against the Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Marina Shafir, and the Young Bucks. So there it is. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on 6. You got a tease of it to close last night's show, which I thought was a fun little brawl. I feel like you can copy and paste my analysis on this match from like last year and the year before that. Like, I'm cool with seeing Anarchy in the Arena, like just watching it on a pay-per-view. I wish it actually meant something. Like, I wish it actually had some kind of stakes of some kind. And I don't even know what that would be. I'm not even interested in fantasy booking it here, but it just seems to be like they're going to have this wild, crazy brawl and crazy, stunt bumps and stunt spots and all this. And then, Wednesday on Dynamite, it's just going to be back to normal again. So I'm like, I'm kind of like take it or leave it. But I do think, to give AEW some praise, and I think I said this last week, that I think they put enough time into this where, an Anarchy in the Arena multi-man brawl like this, I think it's warranted. I mean, they've told this story pretty much since the night after Dynasty. So, I'm good with this being in Anarchy in the Arena, and they've done this match with way less of a reason to do it previously. So I'm fine with this, and I'm glad it's not the main event. Correct.
Agree. 100%. I've got a quick fantasy booking for you after you said you didn't want to, because I always like to.
Okay.
It'd be pretty easy to be like, hey, if like good guy wins, like what are they tired of with Jon Moxley, right? All the interference. And that would be like, hey, every Jon Moxley match, if you lose,
right,
you instantly lose the title if someone interferes if any of the Death Riders interfere on your behalf, whatever.
There you go. Yeah.
Figure out that language. And if the good guys lose, then none of them are able to take on Jon Moxley ever again for the world title.
I like that too.
Because like it probably doesn't, both don't matter, I would say. But it feels like it matters. So something like that, like that's like pretty, I'm not a wizard. That took me 45 seconds to think about. So something like that, even Blood and Guts, especially the same way. The way that's on the schedule. Blood and Guts
is similar. Yep.
That should be like, either the end of a real feud that has gone on for a long time, or you have some stakes. It can interchange depending on it. So, when it's Inner Circle versus the Elite, that was like kind of the two factions from the beginning of the company. That makes more sense to not have any sort of stuff going on. So do you want to get into like predictions here of who else shows up, etc.?
Get into it, because I've got a list of people. Well, you go. Yeah. I won't even.
Zach has two good ones in the chat. If you want to pop those up for the bad guys,
I'll put those in here. So
love that, because Escape Kid is nowhere to be seen last night, and I saw some complaints online about that. And I think that's totally on purpose. It will set up something at Forbidden Door. Do you do him and Kenny again at Forbidden Door? Do you do him and Swerve at Forbidden Door? Something like that. Like Gabe Kidd's like a future star for AEW, and you want to put him on the Will Ospreay express lane, not the Jay White express lane, on how you transition that talent.
Yeah.
So that is super important. Hook as a heel works for me. I think him joining the bad guys, not the good guys.
Joining the bad guys.
Yeah, him being pissed at the ops for replacing him so quickly for when he got injured and like not being champions with him. I think there's like a big built-in storyline there. He is Taz's kid, right?
Yes.
Ornery bastards, right? Anyone from that clan. It makes him way more interesting too. Like he's the handsome devil, not the handsome angel. So
yeah, and I think he just I think Hook. You had a moment in time with Hook as a babyface. He wasn't ready for it. Mm-hmm. And so, you can't get that momentum back. So you kind of have to start over with him. And that's a good way to start over. Turn him heel. Mm-hmm. Turn back.
Zach, I've got a rebuttal to that next line too, because that's 2 for the bad guys, right, that come in. But the good guys, there's 2 obvious. And I'm curious if you have anyone else, but obviously Darby coming in. Because it was like May 10th? So I don't know if he can get there in time. Because it is like time to walk down that mountain too. But I think it was like May 10th or May 8th they got to the summit.
Yeah, so it was I think it was Mother's Day that he got there.
Okay.
So May 9th, I think.
I think it's easier to get down than up. I think that's how.
Especially if you're Darby, you just jump off it.
Yeah, I think that's how gravity works. So I think it's faster to get down the mountain than up the mountain. But it still is a time-consuming thing to get down safely. So I don't know if I don't know. I don't know Everest. Everyone knows a lot more about that. Let me know. I don't know if it's possible that he'd be there. I think someone had in the chat too. I think it was maybe the boss or E had it way early, but Eddie Kingston feels like the right spot to come in here. I don't know, who was he pissed at when he left? What was his last couple stories?
So here's the thing, and I'm going to look this up after I say this, and you can talk for a little bit about this, but I want to say that was it Gabe Kidd that injured his leg in that New Japan match? I think that's who he was wrestling, was Gabe Kidd. Sure. So if that's the case, that lines up like.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that fits Eddie's definitely ready and they're just waiting to use him again.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So at least that, or whoever, who else do you have on the roster? Because this match is made for debuting people, surprises, etc. Big moments like that. Do you have anyone else?
I had 3. I didn't even put Darby on it because I just didn't think he'd be able to be there in time. I had Hook, Gabe Kidd, and Eddie Kingston. The thing is, it's like I feel like Gabe Kidd should just be in the match. I mean, he interfered in that cage match with Joe. It just seems to me that he should just be in the match, just straight away. But he's not. So, but clearly he's going to be involved. So I don't know. I kind of think Hook. I think we're likely to see Hook, but I would argue that we're likely to see him on the babyface side. I think he's there just to even the odds, along with Eddie. So I'll say we see Hook, but I'll say as a babyface helper.
Mm-hmm. And quick Google AI, so the biggest grain of salt I could caveat this with. It says it takes 6 to 7 days to descend Everest to base camp.
Okay, so I mean he could make it then.
Yeah. If he doesn't have to do a lot, that's a flight from Nepal to Phoenix. That's a big flight, but it is what it is. That's the lesser of the 2 evils. I think it's possible. So just I wouldn't say it's likely, but I think it's possible Darby could physically be in this match.
Yeah, I think so too.
Or Sting.
What if Sting
and Darby roll up and just take somebody out? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Do we get Adam Page is another potential could be in this from a storyline. I don't think he will.
Is he in Gorilla Waiting and he's nope, he defends, he attacks somebody to set something up. He
because Swerve's in it. So it's you got to wonder if that will be anything.
Yeah, or Swerve is getting teamed up on by the Bucks and he gets thrown into Page's dressing room and then Page helps him fight him off. There's definitely lots of fun stuff like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not dreading this, and it sounds I'm kind of like Sean. Sean says here, yeah, it'll be fine, but I'll be ready for it to be over. Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, it'll be fine. And
I hope it's not Wild Thing playing for like 40 minutes.
Well, they had music yesterday.
I know that's like the word. I like the going into Urban Meyer's office and then being like, what the heck? Like this should be like more. This should be like, a horror movie. I watched Final Destination recently, and that was like 80% comedy, 20% body horror.
Okay.
That's what I like in a movie like that. So this should be like, I think like a little more comedy than like intense pro wrestling. Maybe like 50-50. I think it's going to try and be more like 70-30 hardcore pro wrestling than a couple funny spots.
God, I don't know, man. Like, yes, because that's kind of the brand of match, right? I mean, it's not blood and guts, so it is a little more sillier. I think you're likely to see Okada involved in this too, like cross paths with Kenny. I think that's that's definitely a possibility as well.
Yeah.
Who do you think wins?
Man, I don't know. It's do you have to pin one person? Is that the rules?
I think so. I think one pin.
Yeah, I mean, so Shibata or Wheeler, you take your pick on who you want pinned. I guess I'll go with the bad guys winning, just to make like the story with Ospreay or Page, whoever, like make them feel more, undefeatable. So have the bad guys win here.
I actually think it'd be criminal to not have the bad guys win here. I mean, you go all year or for 7 months of just repeatedly putting Jon Moxley and company over. And now when you need to the most at the last second, when you're about to do a title change, I just don't, them losing for on a big stage for the first time, it's got to be in that title match. I think that's really, really important. So I very much hope that we see the bad guys win here. Like I think it's essential to everything that they have coming, whether it's Jon Moxley or the Young Bucks feud with Page and Swerve. Like all of that works better if Team Bad Guys wins.
Who won last year's? Just now, you don't have to tell me who. Did the good guys or bad guys win?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. That's kind of my point.
I don't know.
It's more like empty calories.
Was last year the one that they did after Tony Khan got beat up?
I don't know.
I think it might have been.
I think the one I was referencing was 2 years ago. Was everybody was bleeding in 2 minutes, and they were all just punching each other's heads at ringside and bleeding everywhere. I think that was 2 years ago. Where it was the Blackpool Combat Club as babyfaces versus Jericho's group.
Oh yeah, that sounds right.
That was 2 years ago, and then last year was
the
Bucks.
Elite against somebody.
Yeah, the Evil Bucks versus somebody, Evil Page, Evil Bucks.
Evil. It was. That's what it was. Yeah.
Evil somebody else, 2 other people. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm taking bad guys as well.
Yeah, bad guys.
Well. And real quick on this too, I'm glad it's not the main event. I'm glad that you just called it straight up. Not the main event. I'm sure they're going to open with it, and maybe it's the second match or something. But it's not a main event. It's not a main event this year. So
I bet the way Tony does, I bet it'll be this and then the 2 cup finals. Is how he's going to do the final 3 matches. He likes to stack all the matches.
Yeah, he does. I feel bad for that.
The first one might. Well, yeah, I don't know. Let me see what the first one would be. BMJF. The tag match will be first because MJF's involved.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
it can be tag match, and then it's going to be the stretcher match, and then I don't know the Okada match, and then we'll have 2 other matches, or 1 other match, and then the 3 in a row. That's my prediction for the lineup.
Yeah, it's just good this is not the main event. It's not a main event.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that you don't force it into that slot just because it's Anarchy in the Arena. I think that's mature booking from Tony Khan. Okay, a couple more matches to get through here, guys. We've got the stretcher match, Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. The stretcher match that just doesn't need to be a damn stretcher match. And this match doesn't need to be on the show. In a way, It's good for Ricochet that it is. He's got some momentum right now as a heel. I think it's a good thing. But it's Mark Briscoe, and it doesn't need to be a stretcher match. This is a dynamite match in my eyes. That's just masquerading around as a pay-per-view match. I don't hate it. I think Ricochet again has shown, has done well since coming over. Heel character's working, but this is a bathroom break match on this show.
Here's the thing. I disagree. I can't wait for this match.
Really?
This is
why are you so attached to this match?
I just like, I guess maybe just in my life, I've seen Mark Briscoe do such crazy stuff consistently on pay-per-views, whether it be ladder war matches or wrestling his brother or whatever. Like, a Briscoe on a pay-per-view is always like in the top half of matches for me. For what I like in wrestling, right? This is going to be like, I mean, Mark Briscoe is going to get put through the absolute ringer, just destroyed by Ricochet. And it's going to be fun. That crowd's going to do a variation of the bald stuff, which I don't hate yet. So I'm looking forward to that.
Give it time. Give it time.
The crowd, yeah, I give it time for sure. The crowd, they haven't done it to every other bald person. That's why I don't hate it yet. It's just for Ricochet, which is like a very fun wink and a nod by a crowd of like, you're super over as a bad guy, that we have a very specific like mean to you during your matches only, which I really like. So the crowd will be fun. This match will be very fun. I'm very excited for this. Like, if I was going to show somebody an AEW match on this card, I'd probably show them this match or the main event, as like, depending on how I thought that person could get them into wrestling. I think this is a fun match.
I am okay. Good. Now I'm even more excited for our post show because, yeah, I'm just, I don't think it'll be a bad match necessarily. I'm just kind of just like,
I care about this more than the Mike Bailey Okada match. At least they've like told like a half-hearted story here.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
Being a bastard, and like, you want justice for, I forget the guy's name, but Mark Briscoe is that. Like, Mark Briscoe is a better fifth Avenger for me than Darby is. If you had to choose somebody to be like the fall guy of like the heart and soul of AEW / Ring of Honor, right? He's the only real remnant of Ring of Honor doing anything of note in AEW today as like a legacy ROH guy. So I think there's some value here in him to be that Tommy Dreamer type.
Is Mark Briscoe going to win though? That's the question.
No,
I'm thinking Ricochet.
No. That's crazy. Let's not go crazy. Ricochet needs to win here. Needs to screw him over, stab him in the head 100 times with scissors, etc. So, I mean, I like on this Ricochet trajectory. I know I'm going long on this specific match, but I would love for Ricochet to convince a babyface to do a hair versus hair match. Where, if Ricochet loses, does he have facial hair? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Maybe he'd have to like shave his facial hair. I think that'd be so effing funny if Ricochet convinced like Mark Briscoe to do a hair versus hair match.
That is fantastic. Oh my god!
I mean, for anybody out there,
I mean, it's not like you got to do. If you do it, you got to do it soon because you got to do it before the bald thing gets old and overdone.
Yes.
You got to run with it quick. Yeah. But
I mean, that match would be like, that's an all-in match because it's so stupid of a gimmick. I think you could do that's like, if you're Ricochet, how do I get on this card? Hair versus hair match.
Hair versus hair. Yeah. That's awesome. Good idea.
We got to grow his hair out a little bit to make it be like, hey, I'm growing my hair out. Have like the horseshoe going. Oh, so good.
Well, and he could beat a babyface. He could win that match too. And
yeah. That because you wouldn't expect
like
that. You'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. Of course, we're just going to lose the hair versus hair. And they went, yeah, it'd be great. It's such heat. I don't know who has great hair. A lot of babyfaces with great hair. That could be cut.
Sean here, our gold member, says Ricochet wins. This feud is fine, but nothing special for me. Ruther says, I'm okay with it. Briscoe always puts forth max effort, especially on pay-per-view. There's no way Briscoe wins, though. Totally predictable. I'm with it. I'm with you guys on that. All right. The women's division. We moved there. AEW Women's Championship. Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa. Toni Storm has so many title defenses like this one that are just there, and they just kind of pop up out of nowhere. And before you know it, she's going to have run through the whole women's division.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But I think it's a good thing, though. I like that kind of booking around like your star player of your division, and Toni Storm is that. And so, you get opponents ready for her, you feed her to them, she beats them, and you move on. Like sometimes that's what you need from a booking perspective for your champions. And I like that with Toni Storm. I liked what they did with Megan Bayne and Storm. This is a version of that in my eyes with Mina Shirakawa as they build up to the big, Mercedes Mone, Toni Storm showdown. So as much as this feels formulaic, sometimes pro wrestling is formulaic. And I like this. I like this. I like that Toni Storm is likely going to win. It's likely going to be a good match, and it adds to her title reign. So this gets a thumbs up from me.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like a little more ho-hum from what she's been doing lately. But I do like that Mina is like a roster member and not just like import. That at least that gives it some juice. I'm like, oh, maybe if I'm not paying enough attention to like the schedule and what's coming up, you could be convinced like, hey, the hot new star from Japan that's officially signed to the company is the Mariah May replacement. Could win. So she won't, and Toni will get a strong win, but it helps Mina too to be established on the roster as like a top mid-card person. So I like all that too. But yeah, going through everyone in the roster, and then that you can use that, when Toni's the Becky Lynch of the roster, that like anything she does, she can win the title at any time. Whatever she does is important. Someone beating her is important, even if she's not the champion, etc.
A lot of I think it's pronounced Thekla. I'm not sure, but we're expecting a Thekla debut here. The boss says Thekla may debut. It's a big signing that AEW had from Stardom promotion. Thekla was not like, she was like a top-ish person in that promotion, but I don't think that she's going to beat Toni Storm for the title. Zach says here, unless Thekla's going to beat Toni, which she's not, she ought to not debut in this scenario. Yeah, I would not. Thekla, thank you. I knew I had that wrong, and I couldn't remember what it was. It's not the time for her to debut. Like, they're not going with that match. They're not going to do Thekla and Toni Storm. So I think honestly, Dave, if you have any thoughts of Thekla being like some kind of big star for you, you debut her just like you did Mariah May, like at the low level, and you work up. And I mean, that proved itself really well for AEW and for Tony Khan. And so I would do that same thing. I would assume no knowledge. I would assume nothing about her. She's just new star that you have. Boom. Put her in, let her go. But that means you don't have her cross paths with Tony for a long while.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know who this was. So that's telling you how that crowd is going to react if she appears. Not going to be good. So you have to know that if you're Tony. If Mercedes wins All In and shows up 2 weeks later and has her as like her heavy, that's the way to do it.
Right.
Be like, hey, here's someone like I've signed because I'm the champion now, and I told, this is my personal assistant or my personal bodyguard because people will not leave me alone now that I'm the world champion. So, what should do? Whatever. Do that whole number.
Yeah, and honestly, like I just don't think Thekla is on this level, that level at this point. I mean, she's a good talent to have as somebody that maybe you want to build up into something, but she does not come in here like this huge made star. She's just not. She's not that. She's just not that. Period. So she'd be out kicking her coverage with that kind of booking.
Yeah, she can beat Dakota. She can beat Dakota Kai in 2 months.
Yeah, like something like that. Like, and even Dakota Kai, like I think would get a much bigger reaction than Thekla would. Like Dakota Kai.
I don't know anything about her, what her style is. There's a ripe opportunity for someone to be like take out all the original women that came from WWE that aren't doing anything right now in AEW. If Ruby Soho wants to come back and wrestle, if Dakota Kai came over, whoever. I mean, there's like a laundry list of people like, or just like transplants, like Lady Frost. I think she's still signed with the company. people like that, and just have some newbie from Japan. She's Austrian. I think I saw.
Austrian, yeah.
She can be the ring general. Is that gimmick taken? But
not well.
Go through and be like the legend killer almost, but the unlegend killer or something.
Yes.
Like the loser killers.
Yeah. I mean, all of that is better than I think just tossing her in here just to make it. It would just be like, to me, if she debuts here, it's just for a pay-per-view. We need something. Thing is, she's just not that something.
That's
she's
if you had shots here, Dakota Kai, would they fit? Would you do that with them? Who else got let go from WWE? I don't even think they're at that level, and they're on shows where millions and millions of people are watching weekly, and I just don't think they're on that level either. So especially not Tech Club.
Definitely not. 100% agree. 100% agree. All right, so we both have Toni Storm there. Yes. Last but not least, Mercedes Mone against Jaime Hayter, the finals of the Women's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. Winner getting a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship at All In. I like the Paige and the Ospreay kind of back and forth. I liked the sit-down interview format. I thought it was a little bit different than Paige and Ospreay because of that. And I think they didn't do as good of a job as Ospreay and Paige did, but I think that they did a serviceable job and, a good job, whereas Ospreay and Paige was tremendous. This was good. This was solid. It's hard to get me to think that Jaime Hayter is going to win this. So they really just didn't have that element of it to play off of the way Ospreay and Paige did. I think there's a genuine unknown over there on the men's side, whereas here, Toni Storm against Mercedes Mone, that's the match. That's the match, and to get there, Mercedes is going to win this one. So I just don't think they have that drama to play off of the way the men's do. So I'm taking Mercedes.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too critical here because I don't have a better solution. Because I don't know who the right woman in this spot is for Jaime Hayter's spot. There's not any that come to mind. But
that's not her.
Yeah, of hey, at least with this story of someone who's a legitimate 5% chance to win, because she's at a 0% chance to win.
Yeah,
this match, and then to have the whole story be for her perspective, it's the opposite of the Will Ospreay story of well, if I lose here, I mean nothing. And what does that mean for me? Should I retire? Should I hang it up? That never works for me.
Yeah.
It's if you lose, then you're okay, well, are you retiring now? Or why should I care about you? Because you're not confident in yourself as a baby.
And she is going to lose. So
yeah. So it's that's a tough story to tell. You feel bad for her and that can get some sympathy, but you kind of got to turn if you're going to do that then. I don't know. So just what is the story for Jaime after this is the problem I've had with this build, but that's not really what's important because Britt Baker totally screwed Jaime Hayter over in lots of different ways, I think. And the injury bug did too. So, because she was certainly, there's a point there where she's the most over female talent in the company for probably a year plus.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's certainly not the case anymore. So, but yeah, a good attempt, but this match will be good. But it's all about Mercedes and Toni Storm. Be easily the most anticipated women's match in company history by a wide margin.
I agree, Zach. I gotta say that I think this is totally 100% not going to happen. Zach says here the match is Toni versus Jaime, with the two of them beating the hell out of each other again, and Mercedes versus Athena in Athena's hometown. I think that you take one great match and you get two worse matches out of it. I just don't see this, Zach, as a positive in any way. All In's the big show of the year. You got to put your biggest matches on that show. And the biggest match you can do is Mercedes against Toni. That's the match to go with. We've already seen Toni versus Jaime a handful of times, and it was okay. We've already seen Mercedes and Athena, and that was really good. But Athena hasn't even been on AEW television since then. So I absolutely disagree on this. I think the match 100% is Mercedes against Toni. And I just named two reasons for that. I probably could name four more. Like, I really don't think this is a good way to go.
Yeah. I mean, Jaime Hayter winning would be like Danny Garcia winning.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Taking out John Moxley. That's like the level of over that they both are. So I just think it would be certainly a bad decision.
Right. Jaime Hayter's got to be the one to beat.
Yeah. The other
Tony Storm, like, no way.
This is not to beat up on Zach here, but like Tony Khan also, I think, has like a deflated opinion of Athena compared to a lot of people, because he has not like pulled the trigger on making her anything on, outside of Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
So that tells me a lot there too.
She hasn't even been on TV since then. Since that match.
So it's like there's something to that.
Yeah.
So
there you go, guys. AEW Double or Nothing. We will be on the member side of things this weekend, or I guess Monday, talking about the show, reviewing the show for our members. Yes.
One more thing. So if you're watching this and you're like, "Oh, it's too long. I don't really like this." Travis Scott is allegedly going to be at Money in the Bank. So just remember that when you're watching AEW and be like, "Thank you, Tony." All right, that's the end of my right there.
I love. Yes. I don't know where I was at with the old.
Yeah, sorry, the plugs. I just had to get that. I just saw that come through. So
no, good. No, become a member and you can check out our post show, patreon.com/BrassRingMedia. We do all of our pay-per-view and PLE review shows for our members, and that'll drop on Monday for this show. We'll also do one in some form for NXT Battleground and maybe Saturday Night's Main Event too, depending on how things go. So keep it locked there. You can get all your post-show action from a busy weekend in wrestling from us at Brass Ring Media if you become a member right now. Patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the live chat. Thank you to our gold members once again, Sean Plicta, Adam Kidd, and Andrew H. We appreciate you guys and thank you for the support. Don't forget to check out the Kick-Ass podcast on Saturday. She'll have more for you on Saturday Night's Main Event and Double or Nothing and NXT Battleground. So all the final preview stuff that you need coming out of SmackDown, coming out of Collision. Ashley will have that for you on the Kick-Ass podcast Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Brass Ring Media YouTube channel. Once again, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy Memorial Day if you're celebrating. Enjoy the wrestling, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.